The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA. Top 1580, download the app.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. It's March 16th. All day long. From one end of America to the other. And around the world. Tomorrow, St. Patrick's Day, officially. The day St. Patrick's holiday is normally celebrated. Usually it's in Chicago. Somehow, most of my life, I feel like it's fallen on a Saturday. But tomorrow. It falls on a Tuesday, and it happens to coincide with Election Day. And there's a lot of stuff on the ballot, a lot of interesting people on the ballot in the state of Illinois, and I happen to be one of them. So we'll find out what the outcome of that process will be tomorrow. I do want to say this about Democratic primary processes. The Democratic primary process is for determining in any given jurisdiction the direction of the Democratic Party. In the general election, it's usually a contest, Democrat versus Republican. And in that particular context, you will hear more beyond the primary processes about Donald Trump, about what's taking place in Congress, about the tenor, tone, and the direction of the nation. But my experience in Democratic primary party political contests in the primary processes, and rightfully so, the issues focus on what the constituents themselves want, what they demand, and what they expect in a leader. And I can say that that this is what's taking place around the country in Democratic Party primary contests. So in the state of Illinois, tomorrow, the Democrats will settle upon their nominees to challenge the Republicans in November. That's true in California. That's true in New York. That's true in Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, and the other states in the union that are engaged in primary processes. The Democratic primary is the opportunity for Democratic voters to make a determination about the direction of their political parties. And then they nominate a standard bearer, someone who's heard all of the candidates, heard all of the positions, talked about the economy, talked about the local issues. The voters then make a decision amongst the Democrats to be the standard bearer for the party against Republicans and other interests who will vie for being the standard bearer in the Congress of the United States, in the Senate of the United States, and even in the White House and for the White House. So the primary process helps us as Democrats determine what we think needs to happen locally in our communities. We'll talk more about that as we go through this kind of civics lesson together to help people break down where they think in a Democratic primary or in a Republican Party, the directions that their candidates should ultimately take. It's Moving Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. And in the first hour, Ernest Krim III is our regular contributor, an Emmy-nominated producer, public teacher, anti-racist educator, and hate crime victor who uses Black historical narratives to empower and educate through a culturally equitable lens. Mr. Krim, a South Side of Chicago native and University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign graduate, is a former high school history educator of 12 years who now also advocates for social justice issues and teaches Black history to the world through social media with a platform that reaches roughly 4 million people each month as of 2024. Ernest, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hey, what's up, brother? It's good to be here with you once again.
Man, it's even better to be in Mr. Krim's classroom through a culturally equitable lens. I just want to read this because I know we'll talk about more of it when we come forward on our show, Ernest Krim's Classroom. In 1996, that's the date. If you Google it in 1996, you will find that Jesse Jackson Sr. launched, I believe, the first boycott against the Oscars, making the argument that in 1996, only one African American had been nominated in 166 categories. He was concerned, Ernest, about the cultural lens by which the nation was receiving its highest arts awards during that program. Ernest Krim, last night was quite a day at the Oscars for culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think what we saw and what we'll discuss throughout this show is the representation they had. But I think overall, there's still some disappointment that people have in terms of what we generally recognize as a culture, as the most important film, and what the Academy believes is so. And there's always this huge gap between that. And I think that's what we get at and what I get at when I'm, trained in different companies and organizations and schools about what it means to be culturally equitable. is what you deem culturally acceptable and appropriate and of a high regard a reflection of how people who the vast majority of us who are consumers, is that how we view what you view?
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I think personally that one of the great cultural expressions that covered a large swatch of African American history was that movie Sinners by Coogler, and certainly by Michael Jordan, and the brilliant performances by the other Oscar winners. More on KBLA Talk 1580. We're talking Oscars when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable, all month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we're your girls. Won't you know that we love you? Febreze.
New Febreze Air Mist has 50% more odor fighters and up to 30% more fragrance than the old formula. So now you can take on 100% more stinky odors, like sweaty gym bags, greasy cooking smells, and the after effects of the dog rolling around in something. Just spray, and new Febreze Air instantly restores just clean freshness. Smell you later, odor.
Free happy Febreze, la 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 la.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Talk 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of Black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and featuring special guest hosts Santita Jackson and Amanda Seals. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
To my ladies, I'll show you how to work that.
You are the bomb.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to Mr. Krim's Classroom on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In 1996, Ernest, Reverend Jesse Jackson led a protest boycott of the 68th Academy Awards, arguing that the lack of diversity, hint, 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 diversity, equity, and inclusion, among nominees, only one black nominee out of 166, reflected systemic race exclusion and cultural violence in Hollywood. He called for the protests at ABC affiliates and encouraged wearing red and rainbow ribbons to demand representation for people of color. The protest was met with limited turnout and criticized by some as a non-event or a box office flop at the time, notes the New Republic. However, it is now viewed as an early prescient effort to tackle the same issues addressed by the hashtag Oscars So White campaign in 2015 and 2016, according to the Chicago Sun-Times. Jackson's actions were rooted in a long history of boycotts for civil rights, was aimed at increasing the presence of black professionals in front of and behind the camera, explains WBEZ in the city of Chicago. And then there's, of course, the Oscars in 2026, where the cultural expression of black people was front and center with major awards and recognitions yesterday with Ryan Coogler's movie, Sinners. Ernest Krim?
I think, for me, what's most interesting, brother, is the fact that so many of these roles lead back to your father, and so many of these roles are places where he was a trailblazer early. And what I gather from that is sometimes when you are early to the party or early on the trail, you have to wait for others to catch up. And I think what's profound about this, what he did, ironically, 30 years ago, is the fact that so many people, some of which were in our own community, felt like he was, in the words of our generation, doing too much, right? But he was speaking up because he understood how important the role of the media was in us framing and understanding of who we are as people, but also people outside of our community. I would like to remind people historically that the number one form of entertainment in this country, the first form of entertainment, was minstrel shows. These plays that went around the country that portrayed us as deviants, as less than human beings, as nefarious people, white actors primarily in blackface. The first blockbuster in this country's history, Birth of a Nation, which was recreated by brother Nat Parker as Birth of a Nation, honoring Nat Turner. This was a minstrel show movie that was regarded as a blockbuster. So especially in a society that is so segregated like America, and has been historically and still is, the media is a lens, is a window for us to view other people and other cultures. Like when I was in the class, oftentimes I would ask kids about what their understanding was of a particular topic. And oftentimes they would say, oh yeah, that reminds me of fill in the blank movie or fill in the blank TV show. So Reverend Jesse Jackson was far ahead of his time. And because of that, we saw what we saw in 2016, and we saw what we saw yesterday. I want to give people some numbers real quick. They said that 28% of nominees this year were from underrepresented racial or ethnic groups. This was the most diverse nomination pool in Academy history. 33% of nominees were women. 12% of nominees were women of color, right? So Michael B. Jordan was only the sixth black man to win Best Actor. Autumn Durrell Archipald became the first black person ever to win Best Cinematography. And Ryan Coogler, of course, also won Best Original Cinematography. So we're talking something 30 years in the making, but there's always still so much more work to do.
I'm so proud that you went through the numbers. And just without giving the film away, which everyone should absolutely go see and support. I know that Ryan Coogler has been on Tavis's show here on KBLA. I know that Michael B. Jordan has also been on KBLA. What was so fascinating about this horror film is it is set in Jim Crow, which, as you know, Ernest, was a horror of a period for African Americans. So you had a horror film within a horror reality that was so cinematographically spectacular that not only does it cover the dynamics of Jim Crow, beginning, of course, at a train station and the two twin brothers, both opposite sides of the railroad tracks, if you will, and then this magnificent expression in a juke joint of the history of African American music and its influence from the Caribbean, from Native Americans, from Asian influences. And I'm not going to give the complete show away because you got to go see it to believe it. An extraordinary representation of the spiritual, the cultural, the political, the racial, the economic dynamic that is then, and in large measure, what it means to be an African American.
And for a lot of this, going back to our previous conversation about culture, for a lot of what was shown in that movie, you have to be a part of this culture to truly understand it. And one of my reflections about the Oscars and any award show, really, especially as it relates to who we are as people, they could never truly validate or invalidate our art. We know as people that Sinners was the movie of the year. Besides the fact that it was great, it just created and invoked so much discussion in our culture, even with the title, because that was the reason. When you think about how triggering that is in certain communities to call it that, and really the movie, like it positions that term in a way and makes you think of it outside of how you think the movie would actually be about, if that makes sense. Because Sinners, we know, like, the perception is things that are traditionally African and spirituality and things like that are viewed as sinful in nature, but it makes you think about it in terms of what our art is like and how it has been, how we have been leached upon throughout generations in this culture. And again, without giving away too much, I want folks to also reflect on just the context of this award and how Sinners was regarded. Besides the fact that they have the most diverse nominee selection, probably the most diverse voting class, but also too, for those of you who have been following Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan for some time, understand that what's great about what Ryan Coogler has done is he is always been someone who has played by his own rules and done it himself, done it the way that he wanted to do from his first film, Fruitvale Station, which paid homage to Oscar Grant, which Michael B. Jordan starred in, which was a low-budget film that was a profound, to me, masterpiece of a film. And then to create Black Panther and adapt that in the Creed series. And whenever you hear Ryan Coogler, you hear Oakland, you hear his community, and he brings all of that culture to the forefront. And for me, if I was a child in a classroom at this point in time, to see what he was able to do and to understand that there was a teacher who spoke life into him in college while he played football, right? He never thought about doing this, but she recognized something in him. And this teacher did not look like him. This was a white lady, a white English professor that looked at him and said, you could do something great with your writing skills. This is a profound lesson for our kids to understand the value of their imagination and being around the right people. And let's not also forget historically about Oscar Micheaux 100 years ago, who set the standard as the first Black filmmaker from Metropolis, Illinois, who started to create art to counter these racist tropes, which your father would protest against in 1996.
You know, I'm thinking when I saw, just looking at the spiritual dimension of the movie and how it begins in a church and how the preacher is preaching to his congregation, and as yet, even in the midst of being the shepherd of a flock, he still has a son who, I think there's probably no other way to say it, but in that particular time frame would have been seen as being outside of the grace of God because he didn't play Christian music. He was interested in the blues. And those, of course, were the stories of reality and not the stories of mythology. And the preacher himself discouraged his own child's use of a guitar and his own child's use of artistic expression. He goes off and he kicks it with his boys and his cousins and chilling and all of that. And in one night, the entire expression of African-American life was expressed. And then, of course, because it's set in Jim Crow, there's this spirit energy that comes in that wants to take advantage of the music, that wants to live in the culture. And they were, well, I think I'll give this part away. They were vampires. I mean, they came to suck the blood out of it. And how the movie then progresses, the Klan organizing at the end to reclaim its land after it had already sold it to a brother for the juke joint. The Asian influence, the local grocery store, and how everybody was participating in the culture. I mean, this could not have been painted better by Rembrandt or one of the great sculptures of our society and our world. Maybe Michelangelo's David, I believe in Rome, probably still in the Vatican. But in his own way, Coogler actually captures, through art, a magnificent expression of Black life that is so central to our rhythm, to our beat, to our sense of spirituality, even to this day.
It's profound. And I want to also, too, elevate the name Jordan Poole. Of course, we're talking somebody who's still here with us, but the fact that I feel he paved the way for us to be able to better articulate and show the realness of the horrors that we have lived through with Get Out, which has probably been almost 10 years, which is unbelievable to me. But when we think about what horror movies represent to white culture, white American culture, and we think about our lived reality, it pales in comparison. I just saw, took my kids to see a cartoon movie over the weekend, and I saw there was a Scream 7 in theaters, right? Unbelievable. But Scream, that whole thing pales in comparison to the idea of us being lynched in the Jim Crow South and having to flee. Talk to some of your folks, your relatives that are still here, and if they live on the West Coast, if they live in the Midwest and the Northeast, ask them how they got there, why they came there. Oftentimes they fled in the middle of the night for safety. Not all of them were able to do that, and some had to stay there and fight through it. But I think also, too, what we gather from this is how we are the bearers of the culture wherever we go. And it's something I've always reflected on. It's not so much LA or Chicago or New York that is great, y'all. It is us coming into these places and having more freedom to express who we are. Because like they said in the movie, especially for Chicago, and I got folks from Mississippi, one of Michael B. Jordan's characters, I don't know which one it was, but said something to the effect of, Chicago ain't nothing but a Mississippi, but they're skyscrapers instead of plantations, something like that, right? Wherever we go, we bring that with us, that thing that they often study in college courses and try to figure out, that thing that they try their best to profit off of. And I think that it is really profound that it has happened in this generation, because more than ever, because of the internet and social media, we have seen people want to go back to those independent ways of delivering their art to people, and attempting to circumvent the middleman or the large company. Because, it's the same thing in the NBA and NFL. They used to be in those predominantly, but now they don't really care as much. And that's only because they own most of it. They own the teams. They own the media airways. So they say, yeah, you can have that as long as we get to own everything that you do. But what happens when we decide to take it all back and save it for ourselves?
I'm thinking in this moment, I was trying to compare between culturally impactful Oscar-nominated movies that ultimately won the Oscar. And I think whatever Gone with the Wind was, in terms of the psyche of Southern culture and what had been lost at the end of the Civil War and the Confederacy, and the actors that it brought forward to the culture beyond the movie Gone with the Wind. You think about movies like Glory and the cultural significance of African-American soldiers. But in my recollection, and I'm only 61 years old, and I've only been paying attention to this for a minute, Sinners, by far, I think, digs deeper into the culture than any movie I've ever seen. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're in Ernest Krim's classroom. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. That's the sound of blowing snow that's adding to severe weather and significant travel disruptions for thousands across the U.S. Over 3,300 flights were canceled as of last check, with the storm impacting several major airlines, including Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, and American Airlines. Democrats on the Foreign Affairs Committee are demanding top Trump administration officials appear before a panel for testimony on the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran. And Hollywood's biggest night is in the books. One of the winners is African-American Michael B. Jordan.
I want to thank Warner Brothers. I want to thank Mike and Pam for believing in this dream, this vision of Ryan Coogler, and betting on the culture and betting on original ideas and original artistry. And you're an amazing person.
He took home his first Oscar for his role in Sinners. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the $500,000 Luck of the Irish BMW drawing. Drawings every Thursday in March. Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the closest casino to downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Casino Tejon.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. 5 straight wins for the Lakers has moved them up to third place in the Western Conference with 15 games left in the regular season. The Lakers are at Houston tonight. The Clippers are at home tonight against San Antonio. No word yet on Kawhi Leonard's status. He sprained his ankle in Saturday's loss to Sacramento. The UCLA women's basketball team joins undefeated UConn, Texas, and South Carolina as the top 4 seeds in the NCAA tournament. UCLA is the number 1 seed in the Sacramento Regional. The Bruins have a first-round game Saturday at Pauley Pavilion against California Baptist, champions of the Western Athletic Conference. The USC women's team got an at-large bid despite losing their last 4 games. USC is the number 9 seed in the Sacramento Regional. The Trojans play Clemson Saturday in Columbia, South Carolina. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa, whoa.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
My name is Tyrone Owens, and this is my home for 23 years that burned in the fire. Me and my wife, Charlene, we had this whole yard decorated every year.
This was a house that sparkled throughout the entire neighborhood on all the holidays. It's a community that will never be the same due to the negligence of a utility company. So I am pretty upset about that.
We were nowhere near being able to rebuild with our insurance. It's going to cost $1 million to put your house back up.
I want to get back to that point where we were before the fire. I'm starting to get emotional, but I'll work through it. LA Fire Justice has been wonderful for us. They're just caring people. We have all faith in them.
Big ups to LA Fire Justice, who's given us hope to rebuild 100%.
Advertisement. Douglas Foxer, 221 East Walnut Street, Suite 100, Pasadena, California, 91101 is the attorney responsible for this ad.
LA Fire Justice is proud to sponsor Conversation Live, Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, KBLA Talk 1580 host and African Focus Incorporated cultural ambassador. You probably know by now that every year our two organizations team up to lead a trip to the motherland. This June will be our 8th African Focus Trailblazers Tour, and it's not too late to join us. But if you've been thinking of going with us, now is the time to sign on before prices go up. Our current deadline is March 20th. Join us as we travel to a country widely considered one of Africa's most underrated destinations, Zambia, home to the towering Victoria Falls and the bustling capital city, Lusaka. Enjoy a visit to Botswana, known for its pristine natural beauty and stunning Southern African wildlife. We travel in comfort with luxury accommodations, a variety of fun activities, and delicious dining. We do service with charitable work at a school and an orphanage, and we expand our horizons with cultural and historical excursions. To sign up now before our March 20th deadline, please call African Focus Incorporated at 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300. Or check out africanfocus.org. Whether it's in the community or traveling the globe, we move as family. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Let's go.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
And Junior Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I want to thank some of our listeners, Paula Weber and Nam Soo Hyung, my martial arts instructor, Sharton Davis, for listening in and joining us online on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Also, Linda Taylor and William Payton, thank you for joining the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. You're on with Mr. Ernest Krim in Ernest Krim's classroom. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, Ernest.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
Ernest, I'd like to pivot for a moment because I was watching the news earlier today, and President Donald Trump was having a press conference. And in that press conference, he was talking about the Strait of Hormuz. He was talking about the conflict in Iran. And it is a war. It is not a conflict in Iran, but he is being somewhat strategic in allowing the infrastructure to remain intact for the world's oil supply. And on the 5 and the 10 in Los Angeles, if you're listening to me today, soon we'll be looking at $4+ a gallon of gas in the city of Chicago. And some have even suggested that gas could become as high as $7 a gallon, which would impact every Uber driver. It would impact every flight that we catch to and from any location in the United States and around the world. And it seems to me, when I heard comments from the President of the United States yesterday, that he can stop this war anytime he wants to. That seems to me that we have a war that's taking place, one, without a mission, but we also have a war that is taking place without a method. There is no conflict that can move forward without a mission and a method. It seems that Donald Trump is cherry picking and conducting this war without any strategic advice. The consequences for us on issues of affordability, like the cost of everything that comes from petroleum, plastics, styrofoam, car tires, that the consequences are overwhelmingly and very soon going to be felt by the American people. Mr. Krim.
I think what illustrates this disaster the most is something that's very personal to me. I came across this weekend. I found out from a former colleague and friend who used to do a mentoring program at my former school that a student who was a highly intelligent, artistic student who I think wanted to study to become an engineer, She was at an HBCU for a year, and we're talking within the last 4 years or so. Had a very high GPA, but was not able to afford the school. She did not have enough money, had a lot of issues going on back home. So she came back home for a few years, and we just found out recently that she enrolled in the military. And I say that in a somber tone, not to disparage those who are signing up to serve our country, but because this was not her first option. And you know, and the fact that she had to make that decision in this climate, I think is very telling to the way the economy is going. Because when I found out this, it struck me, and I became really upset and sad at the same time, because I understand that with her enrolling in the military and she's going into the Army, that there's a possibility that this child could be risking her life for affordability, because that is what she is seeking. If you think about the fact that even with the JROTC program, how it is mostly in low-income schools across the country, which means that it's mostly in Black and Latino communities. So you'll see them in LA and mostly Black and Latino schools and neighborhoods and low-income schools in the Chicago area. It's the same thing. It's something that I noticed when I was teaching, especially growing up in Chicago. You didn't really hear about kids on the northern side of town or the wealthier areas, or of course at the private schools having that, right? And then these are the folks who will matriculate through society and will become the political leaders, right? They'll become the people like Trump, who did not have to serve in the military, right? He found a way out of it because of his wealth, because of his position in society, because the person he is now was a person he was then, but he was never punished for it coming up. They get to make decisions that impact the rest of our society on this ground level, as we are seeking to find ways to provide for ourselves and provide for our families. There is so much happening now. And I think about the intelligence that this young lady has that would fit into the growing technological society that we are seeing expand before our eyes. But in this world, we have a president who is willing to risk it all. He said, and I quote, right about a week or so ago, yeah, a lot of people are going to die, and some. And there is not a concern in the world, because he would much rather keep us all distracted and dependent on him too, especially, y'all, as we approach this election season. Because I don't think there's any mistake on how this is all unfolding, with the primaries across the country happening in Illinois tomorrow and various other places throughout this month, leading up to November. Because what I have learned growing up is this is often a way for a politician, for a president, to gain support, because who's going to be who? This is a way you galvanize people, right? This is to him. This is how you get people on one accord, because if we are fighting someone who he portrays as our enemy, then how could you be against him, right?
You know, I want to pick up on that first point that you raised about the young lady who is driven to the option of joining the military on questions of affordability. At least there are guaranteed benefits. There's some guaranteed health care. There's a steady paycheck, willing to be patriotic and provide service to her nation, but could not have possibly imagined that she could very well end up in a conflict fighting over a nickel on a gallon of gas. The very affordability crisis that drove her into the military in the first place, because of her life options, whatever they may or may not have been, that were desirable for her skill set and what it is that she chose to do with her life. She now finds herself enlisted and could very well end up in a foreign war somewhere abroad, fighting over natural and critical resources for people who don't need another dollar. But because of the limited nature of her life options, this was the choice that was available to her. I think that was really profound, what you just said right there. And I'm just wondering how many men and women in the armed services, how many of our young brothers and sisters, regardless of their race, their sex, or the class, have expressed a desire to work, but find themselves with the only available option stepping into a recruiter's office at such a difficult time as this.
And when you think about this, and I'm juxtaposing this to the community that I'm in now where this is happening, a community that 50, 60 years ago was going down south and grabbing black men to say, hey, look, come up here. You can get a well-paying job with a high school diploma to support your entire family. 50, 60 some odd years ago. Now this city, Joliet, Illinois, is on the precipice of voting for allowing an 800-acre data center to come to that same city, which is void of well-paying jobs that are allowing people to raise their families, and unless they go into the medical field or the educational field. So for kids like that across the country, that's a microcosm of what it's looking like. How do I contribute to where I live? What am I actually being bred? What am I being taught to do? How do I contribute to this economy? Where is this country even going? It's data center, it's factory after factory, it's truck traffic. And if I can't consider or think about anything else, I might as well just go to the military.
We're getting some lessons from Mr. Krim's classroom. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with Ernest Krim.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
He's the son of a school teacher and Navy veteran who built a company worth billions and walked away from it. Tom Steyer, pledging to give away half of everything he earned to charity and fight for Californians. So when out-of-state corporations weren't paying their fair share of taxes, Tom Steyer led the fight for Prop 39 and won, earning California billions of dollars for our schools. Tom took on big oil to stop them polluting our air and water and smash them. Tom fought for free school lunches so no child goes hungry. Tom Steyer, strong enough to take on the special interests crushing us with the cost of living. As governor, Tom will stop Wall Street from buying up middle-class homes, lower utility rates by 25%, and ban corporate PAC money from our politics. Other politicians talk. Tom Steyer gets it done. Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
You are the architect of your own legacy, but you don't have to build it alone. I'm Lisanne Basquiat, a board-certified NLP expert and legacy healing strategist. I've built the Shaping Freedom platform to give you the exact tools you need to evolve. From my signature podcast and Lounging with Lisanne meditations to our intentional candles and journals. Stop living on autopilot. Visit shapingfreedom.com to access the teachings and tools you deserve for you and your family. Your evolution begins at shapingfreedom.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Created with a share of the 1984 Olympic Games surplus, LA 84 began operations in 1985 as a grant-making and educational foundation. Today, the LA 84 Foundation supports hundreds of nonprofit youth sports organizations throughout Southern California annually, trains coaches, commissions research, convenes conferences, and maintains the world's premier Olympic and sports library collection. They are transforming lives and communities through the power of youth sports. To find out about youth sports programs for yourself or your child, and to get information about the grants and support they offer to schools and nonprofits, or if you want to make a donation, please visit la84.org. That's la84.org. Or you can call them at 323-730-4600. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Not everything announces itself. Some things simply arrive, and the room is compelled to adjust. This is grooming without apology, without noise, without compromise. Gods and money, organic formulations, clean precision, crafted for skin that does not ask for permission to be felt. Element Cream, a rare hydration layered like an oud at dusk, measured, enduring, unmistakably masculine, moisturizing oil, a quiet revolution, restoring what stress, climate, and time attempts to claim. This is not skincare. It is composure made visible. It is inevitability. Gods and money exist impeccably. Discover the ritual at godsandmoney.com. That's Gods and Money, MONY.com.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to the me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In our next hour, when we finish with Mr. Krim's classroom, Dr. Michael Eric Dyson is going to be our very special guest. I met Dr. Michael Eric Dyson almost 40 years ago, maybe 41 years ago, when he was a seminary professor of mine at Chicago Theological Seminary. I introduced him to my father, and I told my dad, Dad, listen, Dr. Dyson is one of the best and brightest scholars on the landscape anywhere in this country and around our world, and I wanted you to meet a guy who was extremely heavy. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson is going to be our very special guest, and I am following comments in the chat. So if you do have a question for Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, I'm going to do something unusual today. And I'm going to ask Dr. Michael Eric Dyson any question that you might have. He is simply one of the best and brightest that has ever done it. More about his bio and introduction at the top of the hour. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We're in the classroom with Mr. Ernest Krim. Ernest, welcome forward to the show.
Thanks again for having me, brother.
Oh, man, you know you're always welcome. Ernest, how should young people see this war, and how should they respond to it in the midterm elections? War historically has generated and sparked massive peace movements in the United States, and I can't imagine that, for example, the young lady that you spoke about, and 18-year-olds generally in this country, must be feeling some kind of way about a conflict without a mission that could, in fact, cost them their lives. Dr. Krim?
Yeah, and not just a conflict without a mission, a leader, a leader without a mission. You know, like it is situation after situation, compounded. And our kids, I made a post about this recently, our kids are aware of what's going on, but the adults oftentimes are not leading them the appropriate way. Because, for example, I said that we'll teach them about the First Amendment. We'll teach them about how they can stand up, but then we reprimand them for saying that we need to walk out and protest this administration because it is not in our best interest, some of the things he's doing. We have to cultivate our children during this time, and we have to really, I'm a strong advocate of recruiting those leaders who we can see have a particular political orientation in how they carry themselves. And this shouldn't be that difficult, because in communities across the country, we'll pinpoint that young men and women because they're tall, because they're fast, and we'll sign them up for AAU, for basketball, football, track, whatever, and we'll say we want to hurry up and get them an NIL deal before middle school. But on the same side, we're not looking at our young scholars and saying that we should mold them in the same way. They see what's happening. They see what's going on. I want to even bring this up. You know, I saw this story, the stat that said that about 567,000 fewer Black men were recorded as employed between November 2025 and February 2026. And also, too, that over 700,000 Black women have lost their jobs since this administration began as a whole. We are telling our kids, and I'm speaking for myself, when I was in the class, the push was college, college, college. And I'm not saying it's not, but I bring that and raise that point because we have to begin to say for our kids. We cannot just tell them what they need to do next. We have to let them know what it's for and ask them what it could be for, because they see the issues happening now and they want to know and understand that what they are getting engaged in academically, scholarly, is a means to an end. Every generation, until we change course, is going to feel like the adults in the room have led them astray. And I cannot say that I disagree with them much because we have a lot of work to do.
I am imagining that an 18-year-old is turning to their parents right now and asking them the question, why are we going to war in Iran? Why are we bombing schools? Why are we breaking up families? And what is this about? And there's probably not a single parent in this country who can give their children the same answer.
It's truly unbelievable, especially to your previous point about how it trickles down and impacts us. And you think about folks who have to live check to check in this country, what the difference 30, 40 cents can make when you're pumping your gas, or if you have to fly for business and what that could mean for your companies when they have to downsize and make decisions. These are things. And if we look at what those unemployment numbers and how that is impacting us in our community, that is usually a sign of what's to come. And when we say those numbers, I want everybody to understand we ain't really just talking about Black men and Black women. We're talking about what's coming your way if something or someone, if some people don't intervene and speak up enough. To me, there's a clear decision when we are moving forward in November. We need a shift in power. We need to agitate within the Democratic Party to tell them and demand what we want as people. Otherwise, we'll keep getting the same things. But we have to change course. And we can't just do it for ourselves. We have to do it for our kids in the future as well.
Now is definitely the time to have these discussions in Democratic primaries across our country. We must hold Democrats accountable. Ernest, we have a couple of minutes for your word of hope.
Oh, my word of hope today would rest upon, I would say, going back to 1996 with the story you shared opening up. I don't think that many people were aware of the fact that, of course, there's a long list of things Reverend Jackson did throughout his life. But I want us to remember that during these times and any other time, that when you are doing what's right, it might not be popular in the moment, but you have to stand firm. When you are blazing a trail, y'all, you might be standing in that path alone or with a few people for quite some time, maybe even 20 years, maybe 30 years until they get it. But if you have wrestled with it, if you have prayed and meditated on it, and you know that it's for the better of your community, country, and world, then you have to hold fast. And you all know how I feel as an educator. We have to think about, with all of these lessons, all of these things that we discuss, what we can do in this immediate moment. Make sure you are voting in your local primaries. Make sure beyond that, we're preparing after the primaries for November. This does not mean that we just vote and we leave it alone. It means that we galvanize with people in our community. You all know that elections are coming up and we're in election season, but does your neighbor, does your friend, right? Does your brother or sister at church know? This is not just a vote every 2 years or 4 years thing. This is organizing and collectively galvanizing around political purposes. And y'all, not just on a federal level, but locally as well. Because do you know who your mayor is? Councilman, alderman. All of this matters and impacts us on a day-to-day basis, y'all. Do what's unpopular because you know it's right until it becomes popular.
The midterm elections are upon us. And when we vote, we are voting for the direction, for those of us who are Democrats, we're voting for the direction of the Democratic Party. A Democratic primary is about voting for the direction of the Democratic Party. And then after the primary process, we go to the general election where we prepare to take on MAGA, take on Trump, and to take on the interests to which we have elected a standard bearer. Ernest, thank you very much for having us in your classroom today.
Thanks again for having me, brother. I'll see you next week.
Look forward to it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. In the next hour, we have a full hour with Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. That's the sound of blowing snow that's adding to severe weather and significant travel disruptions for thousands across the U.S. Over 3,300 flights were canceled as of last check, with the storm impacting several major airlines, including Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines, and American Airlines. Democrats on the Foreign Affairs Committee are demanding top Trump administration officials appear before a panel for testimony on the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran. And Hollywood's biggest night is in the books. One of the winners is African-American Michael B. Jordan.
I want to thank Warner Brothers. I want to thank Mike and Pam for believing in this dream, this vision of Ryan Coogler, and betting on the culture and betting on original ideas and original artistry. And you're an amazing person.
He took home his first Oscar for his role in Sinners. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the $500,000 Luck of the Irish BMW drawing. Drawings every Thursday in March. Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the closest casino to downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Casino Tejon.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man. 5 straight wins for the Lakers has moved them up to third place in the Western Conference with 15 games left in the regular season. The Lakers are at Houston tonight. The Clippers are at home tonight against San Antonio. No word yet on Kawhi Leonard's status. He sprained his ankle in Saturday's loss to Sacramento. The UCLA women's basketball team joins undefeated UConn, Texas, and South Carolina as the top 4 seeds in the NCAA tournament. UCLA is the number 1 seed in the Sacramento Regional. The Bruins have a first-round game Saturday at Pauley Pavilion against California Baptist, champions of the Western Athletic Conference. The USC women's team got an at-large bid despite losing their last 4 games. USC is the number 9 seed in the Sacramento Regional. The Trojans play Clemson Saturday in Columbia, South Carolina. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Old-fashioned soul. Where you eating at? Hi, I'm Greg Doolin, inviting you to a special celebration of Women's History Month. Join KBLA Talk 1580 for its annual symposium, The State of Black Women in LA. Broadcast live from Doolin's Soul Food on Crenshaw, Friday, March 27th, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., moderated by Dominique DePrima. And yes, breakfast is just $15.80. Come get fed twice. Your stomach and your mind will thank you. We'll see you Friday morning, March 27th, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. at Doolin's Soul Food on Crenshaw for the State of Black Women in LA. Broadcast live only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, 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 the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Oh, oh, come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580. Download the app.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm humbled. I am excited that my professor is joining us. The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, a man who really needs no introduction, but I am going to take my time and give him just that. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson is a distinguished professor, gifted writer, prominent media personality. He's taught at some of the nation's most prestigious universities, including Princeton, Brown, and Georgetown, and is currently Distinguished University Professor at Vanderbilt University. Dr. Dyson has authored over 25 books, including 7 New York Times bestsellers. He has won numerous awards for his literary achievements, including the 2020 Langston Hughes Medal, the American Book Award, and 2 NAACP Image Awards. In addition to his academic and writing pursuits, Dr. Dyson is also a leading public intellectual known for his thought-provoking insights on race, social justice, and contemporary culture. His books on figures such as Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Barack Obama have garnered widespread acclaim and sparked important conversations about race in America. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
My friend, it's always great to hang out with my star student, and it's great to be on your radio show today in such an urgent and necessary time as this.
You know, I appreciate that, Dr. Dyson, and thank you very much recently for joining me on the birthday edition of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Very surprising, and I was so honored that you were here. Dr. Dyson, before we get to some of the critical issues that are urgent in this hour, and I'm, of course, when we come forward after the break, give you great latitude to determine and share with our viewers and listeners what those issues are. Dr. Dyson, an amazing event last night at the Oscars, a movie that actually covered significantly the real estate of African Americans during the period of Jim Crow. And Coogler digs a little bit deeper, even into the cultural aspect in that juke joint scene. Dr. Dyson, the significance of Sinners against the backdrop of this culturally very difficult and discerning period. Michael Eric Dyson.
Yes, sir. So eloquently stated. And you're absolutely right. I just taught my class today on Beyonce, and we're focusing on Lemonade, that album, and the relationship in a feminist, viewpoint between the blues as legacy, as condition, as circumstance, and the conjure of the spirit evoked in Black female spirituality. So when we talk about the blues, we're talking about more than Bobby Blue Bland, though that's important, or B.B. King or Coco Taylor. We're speaking about a worldview where both the trauma and tragedy of Black America are juxtaposed to the humor and the resistance of our spirits, because the blues is a direct descendant of the spirituals in our tradition. And for Ryan Coogler to have an original screenplay, and he won the Oscar for that. I wish he would have won for both directing and the movie, but that's another story. That for him to craft that original screenplay and to imagine what it meant for Black people in the blues era to talk about the vampiric sucking of blood of whiteness, both emulating and then imitating and then sucking the blood from the culture, and the blues as both a cosmos, a worldview of resistance, and the insistence that we count our humanity seriously and we protect ourselves against both the external forces that would seek to undermine us and the internal ones that would seek to make us complicitous. To see that film win both for the screenplay and for for the original score, and for, I think it was obviously the best actor and one more, it was just extraordinary. And I'm so proud of Brother Coogler, and the relationship between Coogler and Michael B. Jordan is like Scorsese and, Robert De Niro. It's a beautiful and powerful relationship.
You know, when I stepped into Dr. Dyson's classroom for the first time, I just wanted a grade. But by the time I left, I decided I wanted to be a scholar and I wanted to be thoughtful. Thank you, Dr. Dyson, for all of that. Let me ask you a question. The setting of the movie in Jim Crow, any significance there? Is there anything that we missed?
Absolutely. The point is that my pastor, Dr. Frederick George Sampson, the late, great Dr. Sampson, said, we have already come through what we have come to. And what Jim Crow reminds us of is the fact that we passed through legal apartheid, the denial of opportunity. What made your father so special is that those libraries that refused to accommodate him had to later on, with pride, embrace him as a favored son of the region. And so Jim Crow is precisely the arena within which we're operating now. Not formally, not legally, but we are seeing the rollback of the gains we've made. We are seeing an unapologetically bigoted supremacist presidency and his complicitous acolytes who are full of bigotry and bias, trying to literally take us back to the time of Jim Crow. It's a good time to remind us we survived that then. We will survive it now. But it is a reminder that racism presages fascism, that racism is a dry run for authoritarian belief and practice in this nation. And to set that in Jim Crow is to remind us that when we had no formal relief from the enormous trauma and suffering we endured, we were still able to generate alternatives to the denial and evisceration of our lives.
You know, Reverend, I was thinking that, and I know that we're going to be coming forward in just one minute, that the therapy associated with the blues, for those of us who might not have been able to address the trauma, the relief that we sought, we did find it in the blues.
Absolutely. I mean, been down so long, down, look up to me, right? The sense of history. Denise LaSalle, hey, lady, your husband is cheating on us. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, catch that. I'm cheating with him, but he's cheating on both of us, right? So the blues allowed the comedic intensity of Black response to trauma. Yo Daddy had that gallows humor. Martin Luther King Jr. had that gallows humor. The blues are replete with that gallows humor, that in the midst of the hate and the harm we confront, we are able to combat that with a sense of joie de vivre, a sense of joy, and a sense of humor that is sometimes macabre to some, but it allows us to reclaim our humanity and to say, you will not roll us over, that we will reclaim our agency.
No one can do it better than the Honorable Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, one of the best and brightest that our community has ever produced. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward with Dr. Dyson.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
All the women who independent, throw your hands up at me.
This March, we're turning up the volume on the women who changed everything. KBLA Talk 1580 is proud to celebrate Women's History Month, honoring the trailblazers, truth tellers, and game changers who shaped our world, our culture, and our community. From the freedom fighters to the firsts, from the boardroom to the front lines, from the unsung to the unforgettable, all month long, we're celebrating the stories, the voices, and the conversations that remind us that women, Black women, have always led the way. Don't miss a moment. This is our moment. This is our story. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580, Los Angeles' home for the conversations that matter.
I'm your girl, you're my girl, we your girls. Won't you know that we love you?
Febreze. New Febreze Air Mist has 50% more odor fighters and up to 30% more fragrance than the old formula. So now you can take on 100% more stinky odors, like sweaty gym bags, greasy cooking smells, and the after effects of the dog rolling around in something. Just spray, and new Febreze Air instantly restores just clean freshness. Smell you later, odor.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Warning, evacuation in progress. Leave the building.
It's a total takeover.
That's what I want.
On Friday, March 27th, KBLA Talk 1580 belongs to the women.
Are you ready?
All day long, from 6 in the morning to midnight, the mic belongs to powerful, accomplished women, and we are not letting go. Nothing but the voices of women who inspire, challenge, and move us forward. It's the women of KBLA Talk 1580, sun up to sundown. I'm Dominique DePrima, and I'll anchor the day with a 3-hour live panel from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the state of Black women in LA, followed by women talking to women all day long about the issues that matter most. Our hosts for the day include Jill Monroe, Adrian Shropshire, Dr. Melina Abdullah, Angela Reddick Wright, Raquel Graham, Angelique Francis, Tasha Thomas, Dr. Shalonda Crawford, Dion Raymond, and featuring special guest hosts Santita Jackson and Amanda Seals. This is Women's History Month, and we're not just celebrating it, we're amplifying it. Join us Friday, March 27th on KBLA Talk 1580, where women take over all day, all night. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 and all of our socials for the rundown. You don't want to miss a single word. And happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
To my ladies, I'll show you how to work that.
You are the bomb.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, KBLA Talk 1580 host and African Focus Incorporated cultural ambassador. You probably know by now.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Polly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. In this hour, we have none other than the brilliant Michael Eric Dyson, who serves as a source of inspiration for many of us who'd like to think that we're intellectuals and think that we're scholars until we meet Dr. Dyson and we just sit down all day long taking notes. And after we repeat what he said, we don't give him credit for it, but it comes from Dr. Dyson. You know, before I go, before we take this journey into the larger issues for which I'd like you to take your time in this, our longest segment, I'm thinking about Beyond Vietnam and Dr. King's concern that many of the programs that he thought for a moment would lead to some social uplift, that the Congress of the United States was shifting its resources to the war in Vietnam. And when I heard some figures around $1 billion a day being spent in Iran, I couldn't help but think that now we're looking at not only beyond Venezuela, we're now looking at beyond Iran. Let me allow that, if you don't mind, Dr. Dyson, as your launching pad.
No, you're absolutely right. A brilliant analogy. More than $1 billion a day, but we can't support SNAP. We can't have health insurance reform. We can't provide people a safety net that won't be shredded by the vicious self-interest and the narcissistic preoccupations of the elites, the oligarchs, the people with cash who are concerned about other people with cash and how they hold on to that cash. And yet we are spending, north of $1 billion a day to fight a war of choice. We weren't attacked by them. You were hoodwinked and bamboozled, to paraphrase to a degree what Malcolm X was saying some 60 odd years ago, by Netanyahu, who got you, who Biden refused, who Obama refused, and other presidents refused to become complicit in his war against Iran. And yet this president failed for it. And the funny thing, I mean, funny in the ironic and paradoxical sense, is that here's a guy who wants to be the president of peace, to end all wars, getting us involved in yet another war that has no end, that will eventually demand that we put troops on the ground, though it has been claimed that that will not be the case. young people already suffering and many dying. This is antithetical to anything we think of as democratic, small d, in our country. And with the Republicans siding with him so that they don't even have to go to Congress, to this administration, to be able to get a kind of sign off on what's going on here means that the narrow executive branch of the government is trying to be a dictator, is foisting upon the American public the belief that he can willy-nilly determine what is the good path for us to pursue without checking with the checks and balances. The extreme court is rubber stamping him, and Congress is basically giving him a rubber stamp as well. So we know that the executive administration of this country is being perpetuated by a figure who has no respect for law. So now we're spending billions of dollars, we're spending enormous funds that we don't have, and it is guns or butter. That is a zero-sum game because the budget in this country is not infinite, which means you have to make a choice about what you spend those dollars on. And we have seen this president typically, characteristically, not want to spend money on helping the most vulnerable, but reinforcing the status of those who are at the top of the economic echelon.
So I've been hearing, especially since Mamdani's election and even the contest that I find myself engaged in, about these affordability issues, but I don't and have not heard the connection between, if you will, what you just said, which largely mirrors Dr. King's Beyond Vietnam and I think Beyond Venezuela and Beyond Iran. There is a direct correlation between the resources that are being spent in Iran and whether or not we pay $5 or $6 or $7 or $8 for 12 eggs.
There ain't no question about that. And isn't it interesting how you brilliantly allude to the fact that when he was up against Vice President Harris, we talking about the price of eggs. Them eggs done been broken. Them eggs done splattered. And dadgummit, you can't even make an omelet out of it. So the point is, because it done spilled on the floor. And you ain't going to scoop it off the floor to put it in the skillet because it's all messed up. It's messy. And the reality is that you're right. There's a one-to-one correlation between the money you're spending there in Iran and the money you're not spending here. Like, what did the great Stevie Wonder say? Iraq, Iran? I mean, the point is, everything gonna be all right. No, we got to figure it out. We got to make it be all right. Don't you worry about a thing. We're worried about it because this president is incompetent and incapable of seeing the relationship between the two, the contradiction between wanting to be the peace president and on the other hand, starting wars. That's why he's given up on, well, I don't need the Nobel Prize for Peace anymore. I guess not, because you keep starting wars. And those who were concerned about the price of eggs, or now what gas is certainly going to cost you at the pump, have to point out the contradictions. At the end of the day, here is a president who said he was going to save the bottom line, but he's saving it for the rich people, the tech bros who are getting paid, Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and all of them. And we see that in Beyond Vietnam, Martin Luther King Jr. indicted himself. He said, you wouldn't have found my name on America's most heroic figures and the greatest people to lead us, but I had to come to the point where I had to speak out because silence was complicity. And we need the same kind of refusal to become complicitous in this government when all the money we're spending that we're supposed to be saving is now we're being short shrifted. And this president is trying to bamboozle us by making us believe that what he is doing is best for this nation. And indeed, the slippery slope of the oil upon which this capture of Iran rests ain't going to be easy, because you ain't fighting a war that's going to be easily won with people that you're creating a generation of people who will hate America. It's the long-term effect and not simply the short-term effect that is at risk here and at stake in our country.
Dr. Dyson, thank you for that. Let me say that the Democratic primary process, where we're battling the issues of affordability, the local economy, oftentimes these issues are not coming up. We already know what the general election looks like.
Right.
MAGA has tolerated this behavior unaccountably in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, but I don't hear the Democratic voices challenging the behavior either in the Democratic primary process. Are there consequences for for not dealing with these issues at this stage of the contest for Democrats who want to regain control of the Congress for the purposes of accountability?
Absolutely. Because they're going to figure, look, why are we going to get you in there? The dude's already in there doing what they're doing. We don't need people to emulate and imitate them. If you're going to do the same thing, let's leave the original thugs in. We don't need fake thugs. We don't need studio gangsters. We need the real ones, right? We want Al Capone, not Snoop Dogg. So the point is that thing. Let's stick with the original. At least they know what they're doing. They got competence as thugs. We are spineless. We are feckless, visionless, and voiceless. Why don't we speak up and out? We've got to tell the truth. I'm here in Tennessee. Bro, they trying to pass bills to literally have the ability to execute women, to give them the death penalty for having an abortion. This is the madness and lunacy. Where are the Democrats speaking up and out? And as you say, in these primaries, where we too have to prove to the American people that we are worthy of your vote. Remember, to link what you said before to now, Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ, not LeBron James, y'all. I know y'all think LBJ has been playing for 23 years and now with the Lakers for 8 years. Not him. There's another guy who was an LBJ named Lyndon Baines Johnson. And he said, if you can prove to the poor white folk that they are as good as the black person, you can pick their pocket. He said, heck, if you prove they're greater than all the Negroes, then they'll pick their pockets for you. This is what we see. They are pulling their cash out and putting it on the table and saying, what can we do? Let me give up all my resources. And as Democrats, we have to be sensitive to those figures who are out here, even the MAGA people, even the people we find morally reprehensible because they sided with this president. They are desperate too. What programs and projects do we have for working people across the board? What can we prove our mettle by? By showing that we're willing to deal with affordability issues. This dude ain't helping you afford nothing. This dude is not making it possible for you to really have more money at the time you get paid and the ability to help your family. So we have to make the morally compelling argument that the very ideals that MAGA has put forth, they ain't living up to. And those who are Democrats say, we want to give you more of your check. We want to spread more of your resource out. We want more of y'all to be able to go to college. We want more of y'all to be able to afford things. Y'all don't snap more than us. So when you make these snap decisions, remember, it's poor white folk who are at stake as well. When we convince them of that, then I think we have a better chance to prevail.
My experience has been thus far in this re-engagement in the process has been that the Voting Rights Act districts have this huge blue swath on the maps since the redistricting process, but they also have a large red area that is ever expanding because of challenges to the Voting Rights Act. And what I'm trying to glean from you, Professor, is what the language is that allows us to communicate effectively with our base and communicate with the MAGA base without being double jointed, having a different message in one sermon over here and a different sermon over here. Help me and help Democrats, if you might. I don't know anyone who knows the English language better than you. How do we do that with integrity?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a brilliant point. Your daddy was the master of this, that he could tell them stories. Like, let me tell you the story he told once, and I'm sure you've heard this story before. He said a chicken and an egg walking down the street, and they discussing, hey, let's make a contribution for breakfast. The chicken just had to give up the egg. The pig got to give up his, you know what, right? So this.
That's the ham and egg. That's the ham and egg story.
Come on, doctor. He said that ain't equal, bro. That ain't equal.
It sounds equal. It's a ham and egg sandwich.
Come on, Doc, and we the pig up in the story. So how do we stop being the pig and be the chicken, right? So we want to lay eggs, not lay our behinds. So the thing is, you tell poor white folk, we are not your enemy. We are not the opposition. We're in the same boat as you. What did Dr. King say? He retold it in, I think, his letter from a Birmingham jail. He's in jail in Birmingham, and the poor white people are coming up to him, Dr. King, you're wrong. He said, no, or not, I'm right. They're going back and forth. Finally, what did Dr. King say? How much money do you make? And when that poor white jailer told him, hell, you need to be out here marching with us. So Dr. King was saying, we in the same boat, bro. And so when we can make the argument, the compelling argument, that we can appeal to our base by saying, we know what we're suffering. We know what deficits we face. We know that the Voting Rights Act is being rejiggered by a conscienceless constitution of court members who really would rather seek to undermine us than protect that. But we can tell poor white people too, it ain't just us though. When they start making the ability to vote by federalizing and nationalizing as they want to do, and then you can't vote on a Sunday, you can't vote on weekends, you can't vote with the kind of voter registration souls to the polls, y'all are at stake too. If we can make that compelling argument, we could do it.
I need you to hold on one second. Democrats, I hope you're listening. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. That's a compelling argument from Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward with the brilliant Dr. Michael Eric Dyson.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard with BIN News Now. Democratic Congressional House Leader Hakeem Jeffries is seeking to force a vote on legislation that would reopen the Department of Homeland Security. However, Jeffries said the discharge petition would fund most of DHS except for ICE and CBP. Here's the Black Democrat talking about the measure a few days ago on MS Now.
And Republicans are blocking legislation that would fund the other aspects of DHS while we work this situation out in terms of getting ICE under control.
Cuba's electrical grid has suffered a total collapse. That's according to the island nation's power operator. Around 10 million people are without power. The blackout is the first since the U.S. shut off the flow of oil to Cuba. And millions of Americans are dealing with a coast-to-coast blast of extreme weather. A powerful system is bringing blizzard conditions to the Midwest, damaging winds to the east and dangerous heat in the west. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Visit Hard Rock Casino Tejon for the $500,000 Luck of the Irish BMW drawing. Drawings every Thursday in March. Hard Rock Casino Tejon, the closest casino to downtown LA. The excitement starts here at the new Hard Rock Casino Tejon.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Is this the takeover?
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Tennessee State is the only HBCU school that earned an automatic spot in the first round of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Tennessee State won the Ohio Valley Conference tournament. They were given the number 15 seed in the Midwest Regional. Tennessee State's first round game is Friday against number 2 seed Iowa State. 2 other HBCU schools have a chance to get into the NCAA men's tournament, but they have to go through the play-in round to get there. Howard, champions of the MEAC tournament, play Maryland, Baltimore County Tuesday night. The winner advances to a first-round game on Thursday against Michigan, the number 1 seed in the Midwest. SWAC champion Prairie View A&M plays Lehigh on Wednesday. The winner moves into the first round Friday to play Florida, the number 1 seed in the South Regional. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Hi, I'm Dominique DePrima, KBLA Talk 1580 host and African Focus Incorporated cultural ambassador. You probably know by now that every year our two organizations team up to lead a trip to the motherland. This June will be our 8th African Focus Trailblazers Tour, and it's not too late to join us. But if you've been thinking of going with us, now is the time to sign on before prices go up. Our current deadline is March 20th. Join us as we travel to a country widely considered one of Africa's most underrated destinations, Zambia, home to the towering Victoria Falls and the bustling capital city, Lusaka. Enjoy a visit to Botswana, known for its pristine natural beauty and stunning Southern African wildlife. We travel in comfort with luxury accommodations, a variety of fun activities, and delicious dining. We do service with charitable work at a school and an orphanage, and we expand our horizons with cultural and historical excursions. To sign up now before our March 20th deadline, please call African Focus Incorporated at 310-676-7300. That's 310-676-7300. Or check out africanfocus.org. Whether it's in the community or traveling the globe, we move as family. African Focus and KBLA Talk 1580. Let's go.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Folly drops the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to
KBLA Mountain Mondays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and our very special guest is none other than Dr. Michael Eric Dyson. Dr. Dyson, I really felt some type of way about cutting off my professor in the middle of his profound thought. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, sir. I mean, first of all, you got to do what you got to do. Your professor's running his mouth. You got to cut him off. Doc, hold on, bro. We'll be right back.
Man, that ain't happening. I started to text Tavis, please don't let me cut the professor off. Hey, check this out, Dr. Dyson, though. But you were making some compelling points about how we communicate with the MAGA crowd in these very diverse congressional districts, states, and in this space. And I thought it was very, very compelling. I want to give you an example that I need your help with. When I was campaigning Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania, my truck broke down. So I'm stuck in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm sitting in the lobby bar. Wasn't pretty much else to do in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, other than hang around the lobby bar, but there was a football game on. And what animated the crowd wasn't the football game, and it was a great game. What animated the crowd were the commercials in between the football game, when they showed members of our coalition, people that we embrace, the LGBTQ community, for example, and these transgendered athletes would either be out swimming young girls or dunking on 8th grade girls in elementary school. And the animation from the people in the room was like, the language changed to hostility at Democrats because of the way those images were coming across and animating the crowd in what should have been an animated football game. And I'm wondering the language, Doc, that allows us as Christians to continue to embrace people and their differences, but at the same time, how we communicate that they have a right to belong no differently than anyone else has a right to belong in the coalition and in the great fabric that is America. But the way in which it was presented, Doc, I get the ham and egg justice.
Right.
But I'm thinking about Democrats who don't give as much thought to this as you do on how to keep people voting and consistent with their economic interests around the fold to regain control of Congress and these legislative bodies across the country. Help me, Dr. Dyson, with that compelling message.
Yeah, well, nobody is, you're brilliant about this because you're about to go back to Congress after being out for a minute. You coming back. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. So what's interesting is that, look, let's compare this to black people dating white folk, right? This is the kind of same paranoia. It's hard for y'all to think about this, but oh my God. Remember Dr. King said, we're not trying to be your brother-in-law, just your brother. Well, some trying to be the brother-in-law, dog. So the thing is, oh no, they tried to be the brother-in-law. They tried to be up there with mama, and they tried to get up all in the family. So, pun intended, with Carol O'Connor. So here's the thing. The paranoia that white people felt, these Negroes want to go to school with us. All right, the same outrage that we see against trans people, let me just stake it out for us here first, was the same paranoia against Negroes going to school with white folk, against black folk marrying white folk, and the like. Let's just be honest about that, number one. Number two, we got to ask, do you want the commercial or the product? Which one you want? Do you want to get what you want to get without everybody telling everybody everything you're doing? You can't announce everything you're doing and get what you want, because we're in a very tight bubble where if it's presented in a certain way, this is why they were hammering Vice President Kamala. They were running those messages about the Democrats just want a girl to be beat by a boy who you know has an unfair advantage over you. Now, we know that's poppycock. We know it's a very small percentage of trans athletes involved in these sports. However, let me say this. We have to, on the left and progressive side, be strategic about how we communicate our message. And sometimes we got to admit we don't know. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs about trans women and participation in sports that seems patently unfair. If you've been a male for 16, 17 years of your life, 18 years of your life, and then you now claim rightfully as a woman, you make a transition or you undergo the chemical and the neurobiological transformation, and you are now a woman, if you still retain certain physical characteristics that allow you to have an advantage over women who are, quote, born women, we got to deal with that. That's not, we got to honestly acknowledge that might be an issue. Could we have trans games the same way we have those who are other abled? Those who are other abled have games. Boys don't compete against girls in the usual universe of things. So we have to be reasonable and honest. Now, if we seek the answer and find the answer through science, through telling us this is a small percentage, this ain't a whole bunch, then we have to acknowledge that. But we can't pretend that it doesn't make sense to us, just as a commonsensical matter, for somebody who's been a man to now be a woman who now will compete with an unfair advantage. What's the answer? We got to tell the truth about it. And when we come up with that answer, we've got to be willing to abide by it. So we hold in control for the bigotry and bias we should put aside. But at the same time, we want justice and fairness to prevail. And we've got to balance that out.
So there's this truth that we have to tell in arriving at that message, an acknowledgement that there may be unfair and there are, in many cases, unfair advantages. But then there's also the standard set by the architects, the 14th Amendment, and equal protection of the laws for all. And so you carve out this space, which might be the trans games. It carves out this space that there might be restrooms and showers for transgendered individuals who shouldn't be in a shower with young girls. One could argue, or vice versa, in a shower room with young men, because of that particular identification. And that's okay, is what you're saying.
I'm saying, yeah, until we hear a better look, I'm open to an argument that says, Dyson, you sound like a 1950s bigot who was against something that 20 years later he regretted. I admit that. I admit that might be possible. But until such time that we are shown what those restrictions are that make sense to us morally, economically, and politically, then we have to hold out for the fact we could be wrong. We want to do the right thing, but let's find the right route to it. And we don't want to be unfair. Look, trans people can be homophobic, they can be sexist and patriarchal. Black people can be sexist and patriarchal. Just because we are a minoritized population doesn't mean that we have the ideal pathway toward what is just. So we have to be self-critical here. And we can't reactionarily react by saying everybody who wants to challenge the legitimacy of a particular pursuit within trans communities is automatically transphobic. Can't do that. We have to be open to and honest about those limitations that are placed upon us, not simply for political expediency, not just to win an election, but to do the right thing and to behave in a way that will honor trans humanity while also honoring the fairness of practice within our communities.
I hope everyone's listening and taking notes, because we're trying to arrive at the language necessary to communicate and bridge some profound gaps that exist in our society. So much so that I know at the top of the next hour, the end of our show, Dr. Dyson is going to offer us his 3-minute word of hope. But I do want to continue this question of the compelling message. I had the privilege, along with members of my family, in light of Dad's expiration, to attend the State of the Union as guests of Hakeem Jeffries. And I saw something that I hadn't seen in 17 years in Congress, Dr. Dyson. I saw men and women, predominantly on the MAGA side of the aisle, standing and clapping and standing and clapping. I heard very little substantively from the President of the United States. And I thought, I did not see for a moment, and maybe this is the case, a bipartisan arrangement where dialogue like the one that we're having right now is taking place, or when we had dialogue in your classroom. I thought I saw a cult, Dr. Dyson. I thought I saw a cult of personality. I'd like to talk with you about that when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More with the brilliant Dr. Michael Eric Dyson when we come forward. Democrats, I hope you're listening.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey LA, spring into savings with a special offer from LADWP. Now through March 31st, get a Flume device for free. What's a Flume? It's an easy-to-install home water monitor and leak detector that helps you catch leaks early and track water use. Don't wait. Order your free Flume before March 31st at ladwp.com/FLUME. That's ladwp.com/FLUME.
Carpal tunnel syndrome, heart failure that doesn't improve with common medicines. These are some signs and symptoms associated with ATTR-CM, or the cardiomyopathy of ATTR amyloidosis, a serious heart condition with symptoms that get worse over time. Amvuttra, vutrisiran, is a prescription medicine given by a healthcare provider that treats ATTR-CM in adults to reduce heart-related death, hospital stays, and urgent visits. In a clinical study, Amvuttra was proven to help people live longer and have fewer heart-related hospital stays and urgent visits over 3 years compared to placebo. Amvuttra lowers the amount of vitamin A in your blood, which can affect vision. Other side effects include pain in the arms or legs, pain in the joints, and shortness of breath. These are not all the possible side effects of Amvuttra. For prescribing information, call 1-833-256-2748 or learn more at amvuttra.com. Ask your doctor about Amvuttra for ATTR-CM.
Good old-fashioned soul. Where you eating at? Hi, I'm Greg Doolin, inviting you to a special celebration of Women's History Month. Join KBLA Talk 1580 for its annual symposium, The State of Black Women in LA. Broadcast live from Doolin's Soul Food on Crenshaw, Friday, March 27th, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., moderated by Dominique DePrimo. And yes, breakfast is just $15.80. Come get fed twice. Your stomach and your mind will thank you. We'll see you Friday morning, March 27th, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. at Doolin's Soul Food on Crenshaw for the State of Black Women in LA. Broadcast live only on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. 10 Toes In serves as a mentorship and domestic violence prevention program. They support, educate, and empower couples during and after incarceration. They assist male returning citizens to re-enter society successfully and to help them maintain a healthy relationship with their romantic partner. They offer a mentorship support group for formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In teaches its Intimate Relationships 101 curriculum at male prisons throughout the state of California. They host sister support group meetings for women who are intimately involved with incarcerated and formerly incarcerated men. 10 Toes In is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To access their services or make a donation, please visit them online at 10toesin.org or find them on Facebook or Instagram. They are healing lives through relationships. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I can't believe how spotless my floors look after using the Swiffer Power Mop. No more dragging around a heavy mop and messy bucket. Now I get the same deep clean without all the work. Thanks to the powerful solution and scrubbing pad of the Swiffer Power Mop, dirt and grime don't stand a chance, and I don't break a sweat. Mic drop. Mop drop.
Swiffer Power Mop. Swiffer Power Mop.
A smarter way to mop. Try it or your money back.
He's the son of a school teacher and Navy veteran who built a company worth billions and walked away from it. Tom Steyer, pledging to give away half of everything he earned to charity and fight for Californians. So when out-of-state corporations weren't paying their fair share of taxes, Tom Steyer led the fight for Prop 39 and won, earning California billions of dollars for our schools. Tom took on big oil to stop them polluting our air and water and smash them. Tom fought for free school lunches so no child goes hungry. Tom Steyer, strong enough to take on the special interests crushing us with the cost of living. As governor, Tom will stop Wall Street from buying up middle-class homes, lower utility rates by 25%, and ban corporate PAC money from our politics. Other politicians talk. Tom Steyer gets it done. Ad paid for by Steyer for Governor 2026.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. 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 King Volley, drop the beat. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. Come on and talk with me. Come on and listen to me. KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest is none other than Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, distinguished professor, gifted writer, prominent media personality. He's taught at some of the nation's most prestigious universities, including Princeton, Brown, and Georgetown, and is currently a distinguished university professor at Vanderbilt University. Dr. Dyson, welcome forward to the final segment of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here. What an
Dr.
honor.
Dyson, I leave 3 minutes at the top of our show for our guests to offer a word of hope. Doc, but let me take, before we get to that point, let me raise this question because I think you're helping a lot of us in Dr. Michael Eric Dyson's classroom on compelling messages to communicate to the other side. Before the break, I was sharing with you that I had the honor of attending the State of the Union address, but I saw something that was different. Your classroom, when I was in college with you, I remember the dialogue being open. You had to bring some smoke now or had to know what you were talking about or you'd get it handed back to you. But it was a welcome dialogue and a welcome debate. I saw a cult, Dr. Dyson, of personality where the substance wasn't there. It wasn't policy driven. It was thus saith the president, thus saith the Lord. And everybody kind of fell in line. Democrats remained in their seats. They didn't engage it. And it just seems that under and in this cult of personality, the very dialogue that you're encouraging, which I find particularly compelling and I think very helpful to those of us who are trying to find the language to fight. Doc, help me with the cult of personality. How do we fight with a cult and in a cult of personality?
That's a great point. The first thing is to acknowledge that all of us have been subject to that across the ideological spectrum, a continuum on either side. We've had figures. For instance, in our own community, when the great President Barack Obama was in office, it was difficult to get any purchase on critique, not nastiness. We ain't down for that. Not the hatefulness. We ain't down with that. But legitimate critique to say, hey, we might disagree with President Obama on this. And yet it was very difficult to find that space. It was very difficult to find it.
If you criticized him, you may not have seen yourself in a cult of personality, but that's exactly what the reaction was. You were challenging the cult of personality on the other side of the ideological spectrum. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Dr. Dyson.
I mean, it would be similar, and I know this would never happen, say at the funeral of a beloved figure who died, and some presidents spoke, and then the son of this beloved figure said, hey, the presidents didn't know this figure as well as his daughter, let her speak. But also there's a critical difference between political realities, which need to be uplifted, and the prophetic demand that criticizes all politics, even those on your side. See, for reference, Martin Luther King Jr. Speaking out against Vietnam War, where LBJ, who was his friend, was the recipient of his critique. So the cult of personality is on both sides. Now, when the reason we know it so well on the other side, because we done had it on our side. So let's be honest about it.
That's
and
true.
when we see it on the other side, we have to be honest and say, bro, all you people who are concerned about justice, about the Constitution, about the Declaration of Independence, about the Bill of Rights, about the credo of the country, e pluribus unum, out of many one, y'all done gave all that up because you are now deferring to this MAGA mentality that demands total betrayal of the ideals for which you had been willing to die in deference to pleasing this oligarch, this authoritarian, this dim-witted dictator, this foolish fascist. You have done so in the name of a kind of worship of this figure, a kind of cult of personality of the Trumpian order, and you done gave up everything that would made you worth your salt. I don't want to hear nothing from these people when that man is out of office and they try to tell us and reprove us because it's based upon the Constitution. You don't care about the Constitution. The real religion in America is whiteness for so many white brothers and sisters. The real political ideal is whiteness. The pursuit of that is very clear now with Stephen Miller and working along with Donald Trump in terms of the resurgence and recrudescence of white supremacy as the basis of America, American policy, American self-identity. So yeah, well, how we do it, we are self-critical. We look in the mirror and say, all of us should say, not my mother, not my father, but it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer. And we have to be self-critical so we can be critical of others as well.
Very powerful, Dr. Dyson. Dr. Dyson, would you be kind enough to bless us with a word of hope on the final 3 minutes of our program?
A man who was an inspiration to your father, who was an inspiration to me, Howard Thurman, said the following, and I'm paraphrasing: refuse the temptation to scale down your dreams to the event which you are now confronting. That event could be divorce. That event could be disagreement about politics. That event could be struggling in school. Whatever it is, Howard Thurman said, do not let that event exhaust your imagination about how you can respond. He said the following. He said, you're going to be either a prisoner of the event or you're going to be a prisoner of hope. And he said, the reason I choose to be a prisoner of hope is because our slave foremothers and forefathers imagined a different world beyond what we were able to see. And in imagining that world, they put forth an ideal that would never be realized in their time, but hope would deliver it on the wings of the morning. And so I choose to be a prisoner of hope. The hope that says, no matter what we're dealing with now, this ain't gonna last always. The other side ain't God. They have not seen God resign, which means God is still on the throne. Now, I disagree with people who say God put my man in, but didn't put your man in. Either God puts everybody in or God puts nobody in. I happen to believe God doesn't put anybody in office. We do. God gives us the criteria. I want somebody just. I want somebody fair. I want somebody that cares for the poor. We have to make up our minds as to who that person is. Don't blame God when the person who shows up ain't doing the right thing. And don't try to justify God doing your man or your woman a favor by putting them in. We do the work. So we are prisoners of the hope that says we will not be exhausted by what we see. And I end by saying this. Howard Thurman also said the following: you can go to the Atlantic Ocean. You can dip your glass in the Atlantic Ocean. It may be full of the Atlantic Ocean, but it ain't all the Atlantic Ocean. None of us has all the truth. Even if we're full of truth, we don't have all the truth. Be humble, recognize the need for self-reflection and criticism, and meet others where they are to take this nation where it needs to be.
Man, oh man, oh man. Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, thank you so much for blessing all of us. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you for having me, my friend.
Until we come forward tomorrow, it will be Election Day in the state of Illinois. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.